Sean Joyce, employee of Wax Trax Records, all-around good guy. Chris Conley, I'm sure you all know, artist. Reed Himes of Trax Recording Studios, where many of the great records were made. Ken Wagner, former director of promotions for Wax Trax back in the early 90s when things were going good. Okay, so I think what we should probably go back as far as we can go back and talk about the initial store, because that's where a lot of people learned about Wax Trax. So I'm trying to think, which one of you, well, you would have been there first. She's gonna kill me.
Okay, I don't.
There's one right for you.
I know.
Come on, Julia.
But this is a tiny room. How do you make it come out of there? Okay, so I guess my memories are so not probably what you want to hear. I was about 6 or 8. I don't remember. Maybe, yeah, 8. Yes. I just remember a few things. And just like the Chicago store, it was plastered with stuff from ceiling to floor. There was an employee there, Steve Knudsen, who I remember took my silly putty and chewed it up in his mouth and then gave it back to me. And I was just like, why? I bought, or I didn't buy it, I guess. It was my dad's store. The Kinks Sleepwalker 7-inch and Purple People Eater. That was my other favorite 7-inch from that store. That's really about all I remember. Mountain, camping trips, you know, the like. Nothing exciting to you, special to me.
Sean, you want to talk about your first time going to Wax Trax?
I guess I lived about 8 blocks away from the record store, so I remember Friday afternoons my dad and I would go to the original Potbelly sandwich shop, which is south of Wax Trax, and it was a Friday afternoon after school like treat, so we'd go there and I'd drive by and I'd see like people with cool haircuts in front of the record store. I'm like, wow, what is that place? So in 7th grade, I used to take my skateboard and skate my way down to Wax Trax and just kind of mill around in the used record section and use whatever money my grandmother had given me that weekend to buy a used record. And it was like the trailer, you know, it was like walking into a nightclub for me. And I was like this Catholic school kid who went to St. Alphonsus. And I would walk into Wax Trax and I could smoke cigarettes, and the employees were drinking beer, and there were rock videos, but yet MTV wasn't really MTV yet, but there were rock videos playing, and I could carry my skateboard and smoke cigarettes and just kind of like be exposed to this culture that I knew absolutely nothing about but was in love with. Yeah, that was the record store experience for me. And then I met Julia, and then I just started poking her and going, "Hey, tell your dad to hire me. Tell your dad to hire me. Tell your dad to hire me." And then eventually,
you gotta go out with me first.
Yeah. Eventually, it happened, and that's my story.
Okay, now let's actually I want to ask Chris too, because coming from another country, in a way, Wax Trax, I think, you know, they were kind of emulating some of the stores in London because they had already been to London and around Europe and stuff like that. What was the difference when you went to Wax Trax as opposed to the stores you were used to?
The thing about Wax Trax, which I talked to you earlier about, was that it was a lot better than any of the stores that we had in the UK. When I first came to America, which was about 1986, record shops in the UK had started to be sort of stamped out by Virgin Megastore and things like that. So to come into a store like Wax Trax and see a lot of records that were highly desirable to me, that were European, that I couldn't find in Edinburgh, was really exciting. I mean, it was a very well-stocked record store. I mean, you could buy anything there. And I've always been a real hardcore record collector, so this was a good thing. But it seemed weird that this European culture should be alive and kicking in Chicago, a city I knew nothing about, and yet it was ignored in Europe, as far as I could tell.
What about just the general makeup of the store? Because like Sean said, it was, from, you know, I went there when I was a kid too. It was like walking into like a rock museum.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, there's memorabilia on the wall. There was a lot of eye candy to look at. The people shopping there were interesting to look at. You know, I was interesting to look at. It was a great place.
Now, Reed, what was your first? How did you first hear about Wax Trax, the store?
Well, actually, it was more or less in '83. I was in the recording business, and one of their artists had walked into my studio, and that's when I learned about Wax Trax. I had met Al Jorgensen, and at that point I met Jim and Danny, and then I started going into the store and hanging out, and it was an amazing place. They threw me out several times, but they would let me come back. They keep coming back.
Why would they throw you out?
I'm just joking.
Okay.
It's like a little joke in there, you know. It was a very cool place. Everybody was very relaxed, comfortable. The product there was excellent. You could do anything you wanted. It's like you said, you know, the walls filled with posters, the TVs were going, and so on, and it was just awesome.
Cool. And Ken, I mean, you're from Detroit,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So how did you first hear about the store? I mean, did you ever go to the store maybe when you were on tour?
Yeah. So I kind of got connected originally through ministry coming to Detroit on tour because I was a promoter in Detroit. So I dealt with them, and then we worked with a band in Detroit, Figures on the Beach, and them and ministry toured together like 81, 82, really early. And so that was when we first kind of connected. Was it right timeline? Like 82-ish, I guess. Like
82 or 83.
yeah. Okay. So so that was sort of it, and then from there, I mean, I had started coming here in '81, and then coming through on tour was like it was just sort of like every band kind of wanted to go there, and then kind of ending up in, you know, was it always doing Tuts, Medusa's, the Wax Trax store. That was like the Bermuda Triangle, basically, like if we came to town, and Potbelly. So it was pretty much, you had that covered, you were good. And then between Metro and Lounge Acts were the venues and Tuts, and it was like between those three venues and then the store, it was like if you ever lost a musician, that you could find them at the Wax Trax store pretty much. So, often upstairs. So yeah, and then from there I was like, you know, we just got to know through the Rights of the Accused guys, actually, who I got to be really good friends with. They started to come to Detroit a lot, and every time we'd come to Chicago, they would hang out with us, and then that was really like, it's their fault, as I said in one of the, you know, Facebook posts. It's just really, I blame them for kind of everything. So, as do a lot of people, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So
well, they have a lot to be blamed for.
They
those
do.
Guys.
They do.
But what, I mean, you had traveled around the country, so compared to other record stores.
Yeah, I mean, so I had this kind of like, you know, unique experience of kind of being in a really unique place from a record buying perspective. I started in retail in 78, 79, like as a 17-year-old kid, and then ended up in radio producing a new music show in 1980, and pretty much had a record budget to go to Off the Record in Detroit. And so I was like, I started buying records. Like I had a $250 a week budget to go to the import record store and buy records. And so I pretty much became Off the Record's best friend. And then from there, as I started touring, I mean, we were going to New York and seeing Liquor Bobs and coming here and seeing things and going to LA and stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I got to see all of it. But I mean, they were just far and above, like, you know, really just as far as like one of those, just felt like a cultural institution. I honestly, like, I mean, I've been in a lot of stores around the country and I don't think there's anything like it. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that was always cool, was almost like Wax Trax was like a whole lifestyle. You could buy your clothes there, you could meet people there, you could hang out there, you could write dirty things in the bathroom, you could do...
You could come in on Saturday morning and watch cartoons.
Exactly. Smoke weed and drink beer there, and... maybe I shouldn't say too much.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And okay, so